Okay, so we're going to start on 6b in the Gemara, in the middle of the page. Omar Rav Huna Omar Rav. Says Rav Huna in the name of Rav. Beitzah im Yitzioso Nigmara. Literally, what it means is that the egg, as it's been laid, it's been completed. What exactly are we saying over here? This is the discussion of the following piece of Gemara. What is he trying to tell us? That the egg, when it's laid, is when it's been completed. Let's do the Rashi. Im yitziosa nigmara. Seg Rashi, kishayotza nigmara biriyosa. When it comes out, that's when its creation has been completed. The egg has fully been created when it comes out, when it's laid. Avol mikame hochi, but before it comes out, loy chashiva Beitzah gemura, we don't count it as a full egg. Only when it comes out is it an egg, full egg. Before that, it's not a full egg. What difference does it make? So the Rashi says, "Ulekame mefarish va'ozil," that he goes on later on to articulate lemai hilchasa. What law do we learn from this? That the egg is concluded. Ron is out of town. He just told me that the egg is completed. What is he trying to tell us? So the Gemara says, "My im yitziosa nigmara." What is the meaning that when it comes out, it's been completed? What are we trying to tell you here? Okay, so we know an egg comes from a chicken. A chicken, midrabanon, you're not allowed to eat with milk. How come you're allowed to eat an egg with milk? Because an egg is something separate than the chicken. The egg is not meat. But this is maybe what he's trying to tell you is that once the egg is completed, that's when you're allowed to eat it with meat. But what would happen if you go ahead and you shecht a chicken and you find the eggs in there? No. That egg is still fleshik. That's meat. That's not. And that's, if that is what he's trying to tell you. So he says like this. Ilema. If we shall say that what he's trying to tell you is that im yitziosa nigmara, that when it has come out, it's been completed. Umuteres lachla becholov, and you are permitted to eat that egg with milk, that it's no longer meat. Meaning, once the egg is still in the chicken, then you would not allow to eat that egg with meat. But once it comes out, you can eat it with meat. Zokt Rashi, la'achlo b'cholov, to eat it with milk. The hashto have beitzah v'loy basar, because now it's an egg and it's not anymore any meat. Abol hanimtzaz b'me'ei imo, but the egg that you find in the stomach of the mother ain't a beitzah. That's not an egg. Va'asura la'achlo b'cholov. You're not allowed to eat an egg that you find in the chicken with milk. Maybe that's the meaning, that only when does it become an egg so that you can eat it with milk? It's once that it's come out. It's laid. But before it's laid, can't eat it, that egg with meat. So the Gemara, okay. So what you're trying to say, oh, b'me'ei imo. But if the egg is in the stomach, in the intestines of the mother, asura la'achla b'chalav. You're saying that then you can't eat it with milk. But that's not the case. V'tanya. But we learned in Abraisa. Hashoyichet es hatarnigelus. One who shechts a chicken. Umotza bo beitzim gemures. He finds completed eggs. Muteres la'ochlon b'cholov. You are permitted to eat them with milk. If you find completed eggs in the chicken, those eggs are not considered to be meat. They're considered to be eggs, and you can eat them with milk. And the Gemara says, why are we saying beitzim gemuras? When are they considered to be full eggs? This is talking about, even though they don't have the outer shell, the hard shell of the egg. Rashi says beitzim gemuras, ba'afilu beloy klipa levona. They don't even have the white around the egg. I'm not even talking about the shell, the hard shell. They don't even have the white surrounding. Elo shachelmoin levade gomer. It is only that the yolk itself is complete. You have a yolk itself. It's still going to be permissible to be eaten together with milk. So, and Rashi adds, not only that, the afal pisha me'ura adayin migidim, even though it's still attached with veins, it's being created. That yolk is being created, and it's still attached with the veins to the chicken. It's still sharia. It's permissible as long as it's a full egg. It's still permissible. Kidl like we see later on. How do I know this? Because later on in the Gemara, Rashi says, because Rabbi Yaakov disagrees on this halacha. He says that if it was attached with the veins, it would be asur. So that means that the Tanakama who says that it's mutter is talking about even if it's attached with the veins. As long as the yolk is completed, then you're allowed to eat it with milk. So we can't say that what he said here was to tell us. We can't say what he was telling us here is to tell us that only after it comes out of the chicken is it permitted to be eaten, because that's not true, even while it's still. So that's not the meaning of what he's saying in Yitzios and Nigmeres. So the Gemara tries now a different approach to what would be the Yitzios and Nigmeres. We know before that the egg that is laid on Yontiv, you're not allowed to eat on Yontiv. That's the Mishnah, Beitzah Shnel de B'Yontiv, that we learned before. But we're saying over here that as long as the egg was laid yesterday, that means that it's not laid on Yontiv, it's not born on Yontiv. It's okay, it was prepared from weekday. If not, then it's not considered prepared, and then you're not allowed to eat it. If it comes out on Yontiv, you're not allowed to eat it. Let's look inside.
So this ties back to the very, very beginning, all that we started with. With where we started initially about an egg that's on And Yontav or
Egg
Shabbos.
that comes today has been completed in the day before. Yeah. But I guess he wants to clarify it that if it comes out the day before, then it's been completed. But before that, it's not been completed. So if it comes out on Yontav, it's also beyontav. What does it mean? Also nigmara umuteres lachlo beyontav. Beyontav. And this is what he's saying over here. Yotzuso vadai mibaoid yoin muter. If it for sure was late, for sure it came out from the daytime, then it's permissible. Ki vadai hu de nigmara b'choil. Then for sure it was completed during the weekday. Avolo yotzuso. But if it hadn't come out, like nigmara b'choil, then it's not been completed in the weekday. If it didn't come out fully, and it's asur because of the preparation. Rabbi says you can't have Yom Tov prepare. So the egg that was laid, if it wasn't finished by Yom Tov, and then it was laid on Yom Tov, it's asur because of the isur of Achona de Rabba, that we need it to be prepared from a weekday, and it wasn't prepared from a weekday. So,
but wouldn't this tell you that if it's in it was prepared because we're saying that it's not fleshik, even had you shechted the chicken, which could, and it's not just in the last 24 hours, but if you shechted the chicken, then it's still, you could eat it with milk. So that means that it is prepared. It is ready.
But leishik, an egg, to me, is a different status than preparation to being finished for the purposes of Yom Tov. It's not the same. It's not at the same level being prepared. It could be not fleshik, but yet it's not considered completed in the in the weekday. We don't consider it. It's not been completed, and you're not allowed to use it. So that's what he's saying. Oh, so as he says over here, because we worry, that's the reason, the explanation. Why is it permitted to be the Yom Tov? Because we worry if in other words, it's prohibited to eat it Yom Tov. Why is it prohibited to eat Yom Tov? Because we worry that it may have been completed on Yom Tov and hasn't been completed from Erev Yom Tov. So it turns out that the egg became a complete egg when on Yom Tov, and therefore we're going to aser it because of Achona the Rabbah, because it's not an egg from before Yom Tov. So the Gemara says, "Ha b'me'imo." But what happens if it's not come out, but it's still in the mother's womb? Asur l'achol b'yom tov. We're not allowed to eat it on Yom Tov. Why? because we worry that maybe it was completed on Yom Tov. Only if it was completely finished and it came out, can you eat it on Yom Tov. If it's not completely finished before Yom Tov, then we worry that it's being completed on Yom Tov. And therefore, you're not allowed to eat it on Yom Tov because it has the same halacha of Achona de Rabba. It needs to be an egg from before Yom Tov and not become an egg on Yom Tov itself. So therefore, he's trying to tell you that the egg becomes a full egg that you can eat it on Yom Tov if it was fully hatched before Yom Tov. But if, it was born, it was laid before Yom Tov, not hatched. Laid by the chicken. But if it was still in the mother's womb, even though you come in by Yom Tov and you find an egg can't eat it on Yom Tov. Why? Because we worry that it wasn't completely done from before Yom Tov. Maybe it was done during Yom Tov. So this is not allowed to be eaten on Yom Tov. So the Gemara asks, how could you say that this is the halacha? But V'atanya, we learned in a Beitzah, Hashoichet es hatarnegoles umotzo bo beitzim gemuris. One who shechts a chicken and he finds completed eggs in there, mutaris lachlon b'yom tov, he's allowed to eat them on Yom Tov. So we see they don't have to be fully laid before Yom Tov in order to eat them on Yom Tov. It says beferish in the Beitzah. It says beferish in the Beitzah that you could eat completed eggs on Yom Tov. We don't have to worry about that they were completed on Yom Tov, as long as the eggs were full. Here you're saying is that it's only if they came out, they're considered from before Yom Tov, they're considered to be fully prepared from the weekday. But not, you're trying to explain that is what it meant. What Rabuna said in the name of Rav, that only if it was fully laid from before Yom Tov, that you can eat for Yom Tov, but not if you find the eggs in the chicken, then you can't eat it on Yom Tov. But that contradicts a Beitzah that says one who shechts the chicken and he finds the complete eggs in there, you can eat it on Yom Tov. So you see, you don't need it to be dafka from Erev Yom Tov laid. It could be even on Yom Tov. You can eat on Yom Tov. Okay. So now the Gemara says, let it be that you find a halacha that way, and so basically the Gemara is asking now, maybe you're going to say the halacha is not like this Beitzah. The halacha that the Beitzah says, the halacha that the Beitzah says that you can use the eggs is not really halacha. Why? Because in this Beitzah, he tells us something which we didn't learn in the Mishnah. In the Mishnah, we didn't learn this halacha that if you find Beitzah Gemurah, you can eat it on Yom Tov. You can't have a brisa come up with a halacha which is not learned in the Mishnah. In the Mishnah, we don't find it. So don't challenge Rav because the brisa says that you could eat it, and Rav says you can't eat it. Don't challenge Rav from this brisa because the halacha is not like the brisa. The halacha is not like the brisa. Why? Because the brisa says something which we never heard in the Mishnah, and therefore the halacha is not like the brisa. Let's look inside. It's a little bit. V'chi teimo komash v'lom bebrisa. If you're going to say this brisa taught us something we didn't learn in the Mishnah, and therefore the halacha is not like this brisa, and therefore it's not a question on Rav. Zokt Rashi, ein halacha kebrisa zu. And if you're going to say the halacha is not like this brisa, don't ask me a question on Rav, because the halacha is not like this brisa. Why? Why is the halacha not like this brisa? Because this brisa tells us we didn't hear it in a Mishnah. It didn't say anywhere in a Mishnah that you can eat the eggs that were completed in the bird on Yom Tov. We don't find any Mishnah that Rebbe said that this is the rule, that an egg that is found in the chicken you can eat on Yom Tov. And therefore we say, Vim Rabbi Loishana Rabbi Chaim Wolosow. Rabbi Chaim is the author of the Beitzah. How would Rabbi Chaim's expression of the Gemara? If Rabbi didn't say it in a Mishnah, how does Rabbi Chaim know this halacha? So basically it means this Beitzah is not a correct Beitzah. It's not Rabbi Chaim. Rabbi Chaim couldn't have taught this because we don't have a Beitzah like that. And Mela, what the Gemara is saying, you can't ask a challenge on Rav from this brisa because this brisa is not a correct brisa.
Not correct, meaning that wasn't the opinion, or that we
don't
just
go by that
don't
brisa.
we don't
you
hold by
can't
that.
challenge Rav from that brisa because it goes against the Mishnah. The Gemara says no. This halacha is actually pretty clear in the Mishnah. It's not just Reb Chia's. In other words, it's not a question on the Rav only from Reb Chia, from a brisa. It's actually a question for the Mishnah. Because the Gemara says, on Amitanina, we actually learned it in the Mishnah that it's not permitted, that it's permitted to eat the eggs that were found in the chicken itself. Where do we see it? On Amitanina. We learned in a brisa, in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that in our Mishnah, the machloikis between Beshama and Beshilel is brought down on Beitzah Shenildo. That's an egg that was laid. That's where it says Beis Shammai permits it and Beis Hillel prohibits it, right? But it doesn't say that Beis Hillel will prohibit even if you shechted the chicken, you found the eggs in there. It seems like from our Mishnah we can derive the halach of the Beitzah that if it wasn't laid, you can actually use it. The Gemara says, Onami Tanina. We actually learned this also. Because why? Because look at our Mishnah. Beitzah Shenildo b'Yom Tov. The egg that was laid on Yom Tov is our Mishnah. Says Beis Shammai oimrim toichal, uBeis Hillel oimrim lo toichal. Beis Shammai says it's okay to eat the egg that was laid on Yom Tov, and Beis Hillel says no, you can't eat it. So, which kind of egg did Beis Hillel say you can't eat? If the egg was laid on Yom Tov, he doesn't say if you found an egg in the chicken that you can't eat it. When is there a disagreement between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel when you can eat the egg. Ela b'neuda. That's only if the egg was laid. Avo b'mei imon. But if the egg is in the womb, in the chicken, divrei hakil shariyin, then it would be permitted according to all opinions. So you see very clearly that Beis Hillel is only disagreeing and saying you can't eat it if it's nolda, if it's born, but not if it's in the mother's stomach. The Gemara says, but wait a minute. Maybe we're going to argue and going to say the reason that he says nolda is not only you're prohibited if it's late, even if you find it in the mother's womb, it's still going to be also. Even if you find the eggs in the chicken, it's still going to be asur. So why does he say it's asur if it's laid? If it's even asur if it's in the chicken itself, you found the eggs in the chicken. Maybe it is to teach you that according to Beis Shammai, it's permitted not only when it's in the mother's womb, even when it's late. So because of Beis Shammai, he's giving you the scenario of an egg that was late, not that it has to be late. Beis Hillel that says it's asur. Maybe it's asur even if you find the egg in the chicken. The reason why it says that it was laid that it's asur, it's because of the law of Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai, that it says it's permissible that even if it's late, he permits it. V'chiteima, if you're going to say Beis Hillel afilu Beis Hillel will even prohibit it if it's in the mother's womb. So why is he talking the case that he permits it that it was laid, it was born? That is to tell you the force of Beis Shammai, that even if it was born, it's also permissible. So that would mean that we don't have a Mishnah to support the Beitzah and that says that the we don't have a Mishnah that contradicts the Beitzah. Maybe the Mishnah goes together with the Beitzah, and the Gemara asked the question that from our Mishnah we see that it is permissible, and Memela that contradicts the halacha of Rav, and so we know that the Bryce is okay because it's our Mishnah actually says that it's permissible. We can derive from the Mishnah, but the Gemara says no. Maybe there's no proof from the Mishnah. Maybe the Bryce is wrong. It's not a good Bryce, and the Mishnah never meant to permit the eggs when it's found in the mother's womb. And the only reason why Beis Hillel said the scenario that when it was late it's permissible is because it's to teach us that Beis Shammai says even in that case when it was born it's asur. But really, Beis Hillel permits it even in the mother's womb, and therefore we don't have any support for Rav, and maybe that Bryce is no good. So we don't have. So how could we say? How could we say that this is what Rav meant? Because technically, what Rav meant that nigmeres, then it would not. Then Rav would not be contradicting anybody. So the bottom line is that this Mishnah may hold, our Mishnah may hold that the eggs are permitted. Right? And therefore, this fits with the statement that he says that they're completed. Which actually goes against the statement of Rav, if we should say that. Rav would say that it's Asur. And our Mishnah doesn't really support this contention that it's Asur, because he's only permitting when it was Noilad, because he's just writing it for Beis Shammai's purposes. But maybe the Mishnah Taka holds that it's mutter. B'mei imam is mutter, just like it says in the Beitzah. So how could Rav say a statement that contradicts that Beitzah and also contradicts, and maybe it contradicts our Mishnah, because we don't have a clear proof that our Mishnah would disallow it. Seems in our Mishnah, the Mishnah would allow it. So the Gemara is saying that from our Mishnah, it seems we could say that it's not allowed. We don't have a contradiction from our Mishnah. I think I said it wrong. I don't even know what I said it. I think from our Mishnah, I said it wrong, I believe. But I'm going to say it again. Hopefully I'll say it right this time. In our Mishnah, we have a seemingly support for what Rav said, because our Mishnah would also hold that it's asur even if you find it in the eggs in the mother. And the reason why Beis Hillel only says that it's asur when they were laid is because of the words of Beis Shammai. But we answer that, so that would fit with what Rav said. And you don't have a problem from that Beitzah, because the Mishnah goes, the halacha is not like that Beitzah, because our Mishnah, we can say it's asur. And the reason why Beis Hillel only says asur when it's born is because he wants to say that Beis Shammai says it's mutter. But therefore, but Lepoil Mamish, our Mishnah will hold that it's asur. So that fits with what the Rav says. I'm confusing. Again, in our Mishnah, it says that Beis Hillel, which is the halacha, allows only if it's born. It doesn't say only. The scenario is when it's born. And the Gemara wanted to deduce from this that if it's not born, it's asur. And the Gemara says you can't deduce that. It may be mutter even if it's not born. And if it's mutter if it's not born, then Rav's statement makes sense, because Rav says that even if it's in the mother's womb, no. Beis Hillel says that when it's born, when it's noilad, it's asur. And we're trying to say that even If it's in the mother's womb, it's also asur. And that would fit with the statement of Rav that says only if it comes out it's permissible, but not if it's not born. So this is all going to be permissible, and we don't have a contradiction. So we don't have a problem with Rav. The Beitzah that says that it's permissible is a not halacha Beitzah. And the Mishnah doesn't support that. You don't have a support for that because it's possible that the Mishnah also holds that it's awesome. So therefore, Rav stands. So we don't have a problem on Rav. So frag the Gemara, Elahod the Tanya, but we have another still an issue. This that we learn. Hashoichet es hatar negoilis. So this Beitzah that we learned that when you shech the chicken, you can eat on Yom Tov. In that Beitzah, okay, you said it's not the halacha is one thing, but now it comes out money loy beishamai v'loy beisilel. So now it doesn't work, not according to beishamai and not according to beisilel. Loy beishamai v'loy beisilel. Even not loy beishamai. So that Beitzah can't go like beishamai because beishamai allows it even if it was late on Yom Tov. The mai iriya b'mei imoy, because it doesn't have to be in his mother's womb. Afilu nelda b'yom tov shari. He allows it even if it was born on Yom Tov. He allows it. Afilu nelda b'yom tov shari. So why would the Mishnah say motzah b'veitzin gemuris? You can v'lei Beis Hillel, and if Beis Hillel holds that even in the mother's womb it's still asur, I feel b'meim, and I said they asur it. So therefore, we're not going to say that. So therefore, we're going to say that Beis Hillel only asers, Beis Hillel only permits if the egg, Beis Hillel only asers if the egg was born. If the egg was found in the mother's, it's permissible. But Rav never meant to say that it's going to be permissible for Yom Tov. The Gemara was trying to say, what did he mean when he said that when it comes out, it's completed? So the Gemara said that he's trying to say that you can eat it on Yom Tov, but if it's in the mother's womb, if they found it, then it's asur. That in the, the Gemara tried to say that he wants to say that in the mother's womb it's asur to eat on Yom Tov, and we are saying that Beisila only asers when it's in when it was born, but in the mother's womb it's permitted. So why would Rav say that in the mother's womb would be asur if this is the case? Because we just forced us to say that in the mother's, that if you find the full eggs, it's going to be permissible on Yom Tov, because otherwise we don't know how to translate that Beitzah. It doesn't follow anyone. So therefore, we're not going to say that Rav means that, because that would be going against the halacha, against the Beitzah, against the Mishnah, because Beis Shammai, the Gemara says that Beis Hillel allow in the mother's womb, they allow, just like it says in the Beitzah. They only don't allow it, but Nilta, as the Gemara proved it, because otherwise the Beitzah doesn't fit on anybody. go like anybody. The Beitzah that says that you can eat it if you find it in the mother's womb has to be according to Beis Hillel. Can't go according to Beis Shammai. The Gemara proves it, and we see that if it's in the mother's womb, it's okay to eat it. So why would Rav say only in Yitzhak that you can't eat it? The Gemara answers, what he meant to say with halacha is that when it leaves the mother's womb, it's mature enough that it can grow and give birth to birds. An egg is not permitted unless an egg is not permitted. When the egg is finished, that's when this egg can later on raise chicks. An egg which comes out from the mother's womb cannot raise chicks. But once it's out from the mother's womb, it can raise chicks. So why do we need to know this? It's just a information over here about how it works the body of the chicken. No, it makes a difference with regards to buying and selling, as the Gemara says. And this is telling the halacha with regards to purchase and sale. The im noildo nigmar bishulo, that if it was completely born, then it was fully ripened, fully cooked, it was completed. Then you can raise from it chicks. If you find an egg in the mother's womb, then it cannot have chicks. If he demand, he expected from him, I want you to sell me eggs that can grow, that can raise birds. And he goes and he sells him an egg from the mother's womb. If he sells him eggs from the chickens in the mother's womb, have a mekach, that's a mistaken deal. And the deal is off. Because those eggs cannot have chicks. So he says, the mother womb can what difference does it make? The Gemara says for selling and buying. And the Gemara gives an example of a story. A person says to them, he requested eggs. And he says, Bi tepachya. I want eggs that are from the mother's womb. The pachya is a Rashi, kamoy de payo. Hanelodi minatan negolos chaya. He wants those eggs from a living chicken. And the word pach is pua belidosa. That it's like it, when it gives birth, it moves around, it shakes when it gives birth, or it lays that egg. So he wants it from the chicken itself. He asks, who has biyad the pechil man who have? But they ended up selling him biyad the shchuta, eggs of a shechted one. So I'm making a mistake. I mean, he wants eggs that were laid, not eggs that were within the stomach. It was beya de pachia, means those were laid from the chicken, and they gave him eggs of a shechted one, which they found the eggs inside of the chicken. So also the Rabbi Ami, so he came before Rabbi Ami, he said, that's not the eggs I wanted. Amar lahu, he said to them, Mekach tosu v'hoder. It's a mistaken deal. You go back the deal, can change. It's not a sale. The Gemara said, Pshita, it's obvious. And I said, the Mekach tosu. This is obvious. He told me once that we're born laid, not from inside. Why? What's pashut? And the Gemara says, why is he asking for laid eggs and not from the chicken itself? Why? So we're assuming that it's because he wants those eggs to have chicks, and they can't have chicks if they come from the mother's womb, as we said before. So the Gemara says like this: what's the chiddush? Because he really wants to eat them. He's not doing it because he wants to have these eggs to lay other ones. He really wants to eat them. So why is he telling them they're laid if he wants to eat them? What does he care that they were born, or they were laid, or they were from the chicken itself? So the Gemara says, is mishum ditzribon. Tzribon means that they're fully cooked. Those eggs have been fully. Tzribon losh v'shels called tzorchon kamoi tzareves in Vayikra Gimel kviya shebishal, a boil that has fully been cooked, meaning a full boil. The Gemara says l'may nafkemina. Okay, so we were thinking, so what's the difference if he wants a good egg? Only thing that he wants is wants a tastier egg. He wants a more fully cooked egg, not because he wants to raise them, not because he wants chicks. So l'may nafkemina. So what's the difference between a good egg and a bad egg? Ben mad de boile la'achila. Ben man de boilu lefrechim. Oh, okay, that's a new thing. So the Gemara says, what's the difference between an egg which you want to eat and an egg which you want to keep to raise pigeons, to raise other chicks? Lemisfele beni beni, to give the difference, the value, which is an egg which comes from a pachya that was laid to an egg that was lebei de shchuta. Lahachzelo d'mei maila shebein bir de pach lebei de shchuta. Ve'i boyu lehu la'achila. But if he wants it to eat them, eina mekach bottle. Over there, the sale isn't bottle. It doesn't negate the sale. Because you can still eat it. And you should give them the advantage. In other words, maybe this person really wants them both to eat them. And the reason he wants the pach, wants a better egg. And what's the difference? Between the better egg and the other egg, it's only a little bit. You have to pay extra because it's a better egg, but it's not a whole new thing. Kamash Malon, Rabbi Ami says that a person is asking, Kamash Rabbi Ami, the stam and the boy bay the pachya, lefroichin boilu. He wants it for growing other birds. These are worthless things. So really, he doesn't consider this even a difference in price. If that's what he's coming to teach you, that if a person is asking for eggs that would lay, it's not just because he wants a better egg. If he wanted a better egg, then he just have to give him the difference between a better egg and a lesser egg. But it's not totally the sale. It's not bottled because it's still an egg. Still eaten. But he's saying, that's not what it is. It is, he wants it to raise the chicks, and if he doesn't raise chicks, it's worthless to him if it comes from a shechuta, and that's why He says the deal is bottle and it's a mekach tos. So the difference between if you wanted to raise other birds or you just want a better egg would be if you have to pay the difference or the sale is bottle. So he's telling you no, the sale is bottle because it's useless to him. Okay, let's leave it over here. I'll run down for Mariv and hopefully see everybody next week, Bezos Hashem, same time.
Yeshkach. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you very much,
Have a
Rabbi
good night.
Wolosow.
Have a good night.